All right, Anderson, welcome to the Expanded Minds podcast. For anybody watching, welcome back. And how's your morning been?
My morning has been great so far, brother. How are you? How's your day been?
I'm doing good. One of the things we talked about earlier is wellness practices, taking care of your well-being. And this is our off-camera conversation. So, wellness, taking care of your well-being, things like that. So, is there like a certain morning routine that you did today? Like, do you practice something in the morning to get yourself going?
Yeah, actually, today's 21 days in, and I've been practicing gratitude every single day now for 21 days. I told myself, in the beginning, some people set New Year's resolutions, and I try not to do that because sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to do a resolution. So, what I gifted to myself this year was gratitude practice, where I get up. There's a community that I'm part of, but I also journal quite a bit. And with the community, it helps because accountability, as you know, is huge. You can't just do this thing by yourself. So I got up and I've been getting up every day and start my day with gratitude, and it's been amazing. And the way it works out is that there's an online community on an app called Clubhouse, which I've been a member of now for, I want to say, about 3 years. And it's a highly supportive community, and I get to share my gratitude in English, but I get to listen to people's gratitude in all kinds of languages and from all parts of the world as well. So that part is really enriching. I mean, how about you? What's your morning routine like?
Today I just got up and just set up like the this back screen and everything, so I didn't have time to do my usual. But I usually just meditate. That's for like an hour or
Nice,
two. So like
nice.
it feels very nice. As soon as you meditate for an hour or two in the morning, then the rest of the day it kind of just seeps into it. So it's kind of like you feel a little bit more lucid. You feel a little bit more clear headed. So that's what I like to do. But like, so
Wow.
you journal, right? You write down your different affirmations in your journal, or like
I write down my gratitudes.
your
Typically, it's
gratitude. Yeah.
just the things that I want to get into affirmations at some point. I've used affirmations before. Um, there's some slight differences between the affirmations and the gratitudes, but right now the practice is gratitude, and I want to incorporate more of those affirmations. But throughout the day, I come across different elements, people, and so I start my day in the morning and I'll write down three things that I'm grateful for, and at the end of the day, I'll come back and revisit those three things. Usually, I'll add to them, and so sometimes it's like six things by the end of the day. And fascinating enough, actually, funny we talk about this. I just got a challenge for next month to actually bump it up to five things in the morning and five things in the evening. So we'll see how that goes. But gratitude is so beautiful because it has an immense way of shifting your consciousness. And for me, it's been that shift has been happening now for a few years, and it continues to happen through this month. So something that I'm to be honest with you, I'm really grateful for. Uh,
Yeah. Well, like, what's keeping you motivated to like continue to write in your journal, right? Because it's like sometimes journaling for some people it can be difficult. Like having that consistent repetition of just writing down what you're grateful for, or maybe sometimes they might run out of things to be grateful for. Sometimes, what has kind of kept you, or maybe what's the underlying factor that has been like keeping you going with your gratitude practice?
mm. Couple of things. So you talk about running out of motivation. Um, yeah, the first time when I did gratitude, just a short story. The first time when I did gratitude was 2021 when I first came back from. I did a road trip across America, and when I came back, I learned about gratitude and I started practicing it. And what happened is I got to day 14 and I skipped the day. Actually, I didn't skip the day. I just didn't find anything to be grateful for. I was like, this thing is nonsense. Like nothing is happening. And the next day I got up and I was so harsh to myself. I was like, how could you? Like, how could you give up on yourself? How could you not have this perfect score? How could you? And when I was processing all of that, I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and they were like, but Anderson, weren't you grateful today about being alive? I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. They're like, aren't you grateful that you have a breath? I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So it's really easy for us to forget the things that that we are grateful for, and get so frustrated because we're so stuck in this in our current reality of like winding up each other or having the perfect score. And for me, it was about perfectionism. So the first time I practiced gratitude, I learned that it's not about perfectionism. It's doing it your own way, and there is always something. There's always going to be something for you to be grateful for. And so that was a challenge which I put myself on after that. I was like, if there's always going to be something for me to be grateful for, from the big things to the smallest things, I'm going to have to hold myself accountable to this practice. I seen the shift that it did for me because it helped me identify the areas that I need to work on, like perfectionism. So from that standpoint, I didn't want to deal with perfectionism anymore. That was one thing that I wanted to get rid of. And two, I wanted to elevate my consciousness, and I wanted to continue to elevate my consciousness. And three, I wanted to be able to share with others because um, we can change the world, and it starts with us, right? So I had already started that practice, and I was like, why not incorporate other people into it? So I found the gratitude community online, and the accountability. I thought it was going to be me actually impacting them, but what I came to find out is by listening to people's gratitude, the impact that it had on my life was absolutely amazing. So for those three reasons, I've been going pretty strong. The accountability has been great, and I hope to keep going through the end of this month, and I hope to keep going through next month actually, because the goal for next month is going to be five gratitudes in the morning and five in the evening.
Yeah, like what are some other effects of gratitude? Because like it seems like one of them was like you have to like recall things in your life. So it seems like it would affect your memory in some way, in a positive way. Like having to recall these experiences and just be like, you know what? Yeah, I'm grateful for this, that I have this. Is there any other effects that you think gratitude has on or has had on you and can have on other people?
Oh man, where do I start? So I've been Yes, the answer is yes. There's a lot of ways by which gratitude can affect your life. I just talk about perfectionism, which is not a physical trait. It's actually a mental, emotional state, in my opinion, but I could be wrong. Perfectionism for me was a what I came to find out was a trauma response. It was a trauma response because of my what I come to find out is my fear of rejection. So fear is an emotional state. So what gratitude has been helping me is to deal with those fears and face them head on in ways that are very different than how I dealt with fear before. Like for me as a African man, most men are told to not feel, not talk about their emotions. Actually, they're told to bottle it up and push it down and push it down some more if it hurts. And it's really allowed me to face my fears head on and not be afraid to talk about it as well with others, because there was a time in my life where you told me I was a perfectionist, I was like, absolutely not, get out of here. Or if you told me I was afraid for rejection, I'd be like, absolutely not. So I was very headstrong in that sense. Having that emotional healing, emotional regulation, that emotional groundness has been really, really good for me. And as I share with others, I speak a lot about mental health and why it's important for people to prioritize their mental health. I find that I'm really connecting with both men and women, but mostly men who don't feel like they have a voice in this world to talk about the emotional path. So I do have I run a company where we talk quite a bit about holistic wellness, and for me, it's about the eight dimensions of wellness. Gratitude has been impacting all of those eight dimensions for me. Of course, we need hours to talk about every single one of those dimensions, but we just talk about emotional and mental state. For physical wellness, one of the things that it's done for me. I remember there was a few months ago I was training for a half marathon. I don't know which one I was training for, and I decided to go for a run that day. But instead of listening to music, I brought the gratitude room with me. I was listening to people's gratitudes and gratitude shares, and the goal for me that day, or what I thought my body was able to handle, Ezekiel, was 3 miles. I told myself it was 3 miles. That's it. That's my capability. That's the limit of my physical ability today was 3 miles. And it was a belief that I had strongly in my body that my body could only run 3 miles that day, and that was it. It was going to be done. Something funny happened. I started running that day, and I got to mile number 2, and I was so energized. I got to mile number 3, and I just kept going, listening to people's gratitude. It was almost like my body didn't want to stop. It was almost like I had broken through the limit that I created for myself in my mind of what my body could handle. I got to mile 6, and I paused, and I shared in the gratitude room that I was actually I was actually going for a run. My goal that day was just to do 3 miles, and I've doubled my distance. Well, wouldn't you know, I actually ran 9 miles that day. And it was amazing to see what gratitude is able to do to your mind and what that translates to your body. Because if you told me in the beginning of that day, "Hey, Anderson, you're going to run 9 miles today," I would have been like, "You're out of your mind." But that's just it. These limiting beliefs that things that we create for ourselves or things that society imposes on us, and then we start believing them, and then our body just freezes up. But by practicing gratitude, it actually released my body to go 9 miles that day. And I'm pretty sure that if I wanted to keep going, I would have kept going. But um, I had to go to other things that day. So that's just some of the areas. And of course, we talk about accountability. The community aspect of it has been really, really big. How it's impacted my interpersonal relationships has been really, really big.
Yeah, so it has like a physical effect. It helps, remove limiting beliefs which are mental. Is there any other effects that gratitude has?
Yeah, yeah, physical, emotional, psychological, of course, social, social. My network is changing. It's been changing. I've got some gratitude warriors in my life now who have been hugely supportive to me, and those fears that I used to carry about, like looking a certain way, in order to be accepted, it's like I don't have to do that anymore. All I need to do is just be myself because I have that gratitude for myself. I could just be myself and have that unconditional acceptance of myself. And by having that unconditional acceptance of myself, people can accept me for who I am. So it's been impacting my relationships in that sense.
And so you also mentioned like the eight, dimensions of well-being. Like, can you just briefly go over what they are? So it's gratitude and what else?
Yeah. So gratitude is actually not one of them, but it's been my path to healing and to actually connecting deeper with those 8 dimensions.
Okay.
So most people are aware of their physical wellness or their physical well-being. Sometimes we call it fitness. And in fitness, we talk about your diet, your exercise, and your sleep. Um, Now, post-pandemic, a lot of people are aware of their mental health. And so I bucket that into your mental emotional health. In your mental emotional health, that's where I actually got to find gratitude and things like self-compassion, emotional regulation, and things like that. That all falls in that bucket. Um, there's a intellectual space. So intellectual space, you're learning about the universe, you're learning about yourself. You go to school, or you read books, you listen to podcasts. All of those form your intellectual wellness, how well you know about the world. So that's about knowledge. Now, a lot of people are getting laid off or getting burned out at work. So work is a big part of people's lives, and so that forms your career wellness, your work wellness. Having something that's meaningful is a form of wellness. There's a lot of people who are working at jobs where they just don't have the psychological safety, and so it's really important to do something that is meaningful to you and also meaningful to others. So that forms your wellness in that sense. I'm not going to describe every single one of those dimensions. Gratitude falls in the spiritual wellness realm for me. In the spiritual wellness, when I was growing up, I went to church, for example. Some people went to temple. Some people may just practice mindfulness. You talk about doing 2 hours of mindfulness or meditation. Meditation is that path to deepen your spirituality. Religion is that path to deepen your spirituality. It's all the different parts of deepening your spirituality. For me, growing up, it was about going to church, and that helped me deepen my spirituality because I was a Christian in that sense. But I veered off that path a little bit to follow science, which put me in that intellectual, it deepened my intellectual curiosity. Science from everything from the atomic level, how we are made, to the universal level, how the universe is formed. So I just covered your physical wellness, intellectual wellness, spiritual wellness, and career. The other four are financial, environmental, spirit. Did I talk about spiritual already? Um, uh,
Yeah.
yep. So you got financial, environmental. Um, drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank now. Social, which is a really, really big part because you have to. Social wellness starts with your family, and then it goes into your friendships and then into your relationships, whether your love life or whatever. Um, and there is one that is not coming to me right now, but I think it will. Um, I think it
If,
eventually will. But those
if
that
it does,
couple,
I'll just link it. I'll just like put a little a title so that people can get the
perfect,
eighth one. But yeah, just let me know if you
perfect,
remember. Yeah,
perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
How do you prioritize your well-being? Like, what are some things that you can do on a practical basis that are, can help you prioritize your well-being and, get you set on the right track, just in life in general?
I think it really start for me, at least. It really starts with a sense of self-awareness. That of self-awareness is usually around mindfulness, around what is it that I want for myself today, who is it that I want to become. I think a lot of times we're so focused on what it is that I need to do, and we miss out on the person who we are becoming throughout the journey. I'd always focus on the to do on my list. You know, read that book and get that next job and run that company, and and go out and run the next race or the next marathon. But through that process, what happened for me is I was missing out on the person who I was becoming. Um, and when you don't have that moment of introspection, that moment of reflection, you know, there's a song by I hate to quote Taylor Swift on your podcast, but there is a song by Taylor Swift where she talks about the anti-hero and the ability to stare at yourself in the mirror, like really stare at yourself in the mirror. For most people, it's way harder than looking directly into the sun. I paraphrase the song, but it's much harder for people to reflect on themselves than to look at the sun, which is it's hard to look at the sun. It's blinding to look at the sun. But a lot of people would rather be walking through this universe blind than to open up their eyes to the reality that is them. So what we see, how it plays out today is a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of depression. And what I came to find out is that the anxiety is just people who are so future focused, always thinking about what's coming next. And the depression is people who are so past focused. They're focused on the lack, the miss, like what I lost. But when you have that awareness of, and that for me is the gratitude. When you have that awareness of the now, and that every single moment that you have right now, you have the ability to change your odds, then that is empowering. Um, so that's essentially the beginning for me when you talk about coming to that awareness of the eight dimensions of wellness. How it plays out physically for the last 16, going on maybe 20 years, I've been dealing with a lower back condition called degenerative disc disease, or so they thought it is what I had. Um, I've been doing a lot of introspection about that because here's what I came to find out about back pain. It goes away. If you think about it, if you cut yourself, it's going to heal. Animals heal, plants heal, we heal. So why do I have this pain for 16 years and it's not healing? And when I started asking myself that question, then the answers started coming out. Like, okay, well, maybe you should try different things. Maybe you should, instead of just being on medication all the time, maybe you should try yoga. Maybe you should try breathing and breath work. maybe you should look into whether that physical pain is a manifestation of something else. And the time someone asked me that, like, could your physical pain be a manifestation of something else? I was like, you must be out of your mind. Physical pain is in the body. How could it be from someplace? How could it be from my spirit? How could it be from my emotions? Well, come to find out, emotions are just energy in motion. And sometimes when that energy gets trapped in the body, it causes us pain. When people talk about things like heartbreak, they feel the pain in their heart, or they talk about the pain in their heart. It's not physical pain, it's emotional pain. And if we don't have the tools to release that pain, then we feel stuck. And for me, for a very long time, I felt stuck believing that degenerative disc disease was a thing that I could not heal from. Well, 2 years ago, I ran a marathon. Actually, I felt stuck that degenerative disc disease was the thing that was limiting me from running and achieving the things in my life that I really wanted to achieve. And 2 years ago, I trained my body and my mind and I ran a marathon, and everything changed from there. Then it became, oh, wow, if you could do that, then what other things can you break through? Could you break through your financial mindset? Could you break through healthy connections? Can you break through forming, learning in different ways, learning different things, which I was just never interested in? So those are some of the ways which it's been changing my mindset, but it's really been changing a lot of things from my reality, and for that I'm really grateful, and I continue to see the changes in my life because like it's almost like every single day I wake up now I learn something new about myself, and I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. But most of society, most of our education, we're conditioned to learn about the world and not learn about the person who we are. And like I said earlier, when you take a step back and you start learning about that, then you start unblocking those limiting beliefs that you've carried for so long.
What marathon was it, by the way? If you don't mind me asking.
Boston,
Boston
no, I don't
Marathon.
mind it. I don't mind at all. Boston Marathon. Boston Marathon is one of the hardest marathons to get into, and I
Does it
went
go
to
into
school.
3 hours, or what's how do you qualify?
It's like it's really, yeah, you have to like 3 hours. So I did not qualify to get in. There's two ways to get in. You can either be a really really good runner and qualify by having a really good time, or you could do it as a fundraiser. So I did it as a fundraiser, and that's how I got in. Yeah.
Yeah, nice, nice. What mile were you feeling it like, or did you even feel any pain at all?
They're
Like
like my one.
mile. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. Did I feel any pain at all? I felt a lot of things. Um, mild. So Boston Marathon, if you've ever heard of Boston Marathon, there's a part of the race called miles. It's called the Heartbreak Hill. It's usually around like somewhere between mile 18 and mile 20. And I had trained my body to go 20 miles, so I knew that I would go past Heartbreak Hill, and I actually ran Heartbreak Hill before the race, so I knew, you know what, I can definitely make it to 20 miles. However, what happened that day is that I got to, so I did most of my training in Maine, which is about 10 degrees colder than Boston. And when I got to Boston that day, I dressed up like I normally would when I was going out for my Sunday runs. Two things happened. One, Boston is 10 degrees warmer. Two, that day was actually a little bit warmer when I started running. So when I got to my halfway mark, I started feeling this pain like all over my body, and of course my mind was distracted. I'm like, what's going on? Like, I can make it through 13 miles. So why is my body trying to shut down right now? So at that point, I started doing this. And you know what? I'm really, really grateful for body scanning, because when I learned the body scan technique, I don't know if you're familiar with body scanning, but essentially, what it is I went into this like mindful state, and I started just scanning everything from my toes to my ankles to my knees, and I scanned all the way up to my head to figure out why I was feeling this way. I'd already slowed down, I already hydrated, like I already had a snack, but I was gassing out. And when I got to mile 16, what I realized at that point is like it was almost like I was doing this run walk and run walk. I could never fully recover from it. And finally I stopped and I started walking. And what I discovered is that I was overheating. I I never knew that overheating was a thing that would actually cause this kind of reaction in my body. And so right away, the thing that I needed to do was get rid of my leggings. I had these long sleeves. It was still a cold day. It was like 40 degrees. So I had the long sleeves on, but I had leggings on, which were really warm. And try taking off your leggings in the middle of a marathon. It was quite an experience. I had to jump into a porta potty and lose my leggings. I don't know why I'm telling you this story, but mindfulness was what I used in that moment, and it really allowed me to break through that point because honestly, when I got to that point, I thought the race was over. I thought my race was going to be over, and all the fears started kicking in. And when I started doing the mindfulness, I was like, wait a second, you can do this thing. If you need to walk the rest of it, you can walk the rest of it. But let's just scan and figure out what it is that's bugging you right now and fix that, and then go have an amazing race. So when I took those leggings I took off, and I kept running, and then I got to mile 22, and I got to see my mom, and it was like, oh, it was so amazing. So yeah, mom gave me that extra boost of energy to keep
Yeah.
going, and just to talk about the testament of like good connections, healthy connections. I didn't actually see my mom when I met her at mile 22. I haven't told a lot of people this story, but I heard the voice of my mother from a sea of like thousands of people, and to me, it was quite a miracle because like I could have missed her, and I heard her scream my voice. It's just to show you like how connected we are intricately. It was so powerful. And I ran to her and I gave her a good hug. It ended up taking me 5 hours and change to finish the race, but I'm so grateful that I did it. My goal for that entire race was not about the time, it was about finishing. And I did it. I finished it. And I was really, really happy at the end. I didn't want to also, that was the other thing. I didn't want to finish it and then like crash, right? Because like I'd seen all these runners who cross the finish line and then they just crash. Their family members would see them and they'll freak out, like, are you okay? Like, do you need an ambulance? I didn't want any of that. So I finished. I took photos. I had a great time. I walked to the buses. It was freezing. I got a snack. I met the girl that I was dating at the time, and then we went out with some friends. And it was amazing because we had the after party. It was so fun. And to me, the limiting belief would have been finish the race and go home, right? But I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to celebrate it. I wanted to be able to share that love, that experience with my friends, with my family, and all. So I was able to do that. So, but running has become more than just a physical journey for me. It's actually become a deeply spiritual journey for me because when I run, it's almost like I talk about running and gratitude. When I run now, it's almost like I go inward, I go into myself instead of going outward. It used to be like the thing that you show off like to other people, and it stopped becoming that. I zone out and I reconnect with myself in ways that I never have before. So thank you for that question. I
Yeah.
could talk all day about running apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to run a lot back then too. I'm like getting back into running right now, and it's actually
Really?
like
Huh?
if you connect with yourself, like how you talked about, like I mean, once you get the blood flowing right, it's like easier to really feel get in a zone of like concentration and like if you practice also controlled breathing too, and then like it just becomes like a super powerful like like a meditative experience if you just
Totally.
connect with your breath and your body like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. What was your running distance? You mind if I ask?
Well, when I was like younger, like middle school, I actually did marathons, and then now I'm just like short distance. But
Wow.
I did the LA marathon, so
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice. I have a friend of mine who's Long Beach. He's been trying to. Well, it's actually in Lakewood. My buddy Henry. He's done a couple half marathons with me, and he's been trying to get me to sign up for the LA Marathon. I
It's a
don't know
good
if
one.
I'm
You
gonna
know,
do.
I liked it.
I don't know if I'm gonna do another one though. Like I, I was like one and done.
Yeah,
It's so taxing on your body. The training is so intense. But I say it's so intense, so taxing on your body, but it's spiritual liberation, to be honest with you. And I really,
yeah,
really enjoy the joy of running. It's so powerful. Like you said, it puts you in that deep meditative state.
yeah. I don't know what it was, but so I did two marathon, or I've done three total of the LA marathon, like three times. So I did it
Mm.
twice, and the last time I did it, I didn't train at all. My only training was like basketball. So then when I went into it, you know, well, mainly I had the motivation because my teacher's like, "Yeah, you can't do this." Like, I was like, "Yeah, I'm about to do it right now and prove you wrong." Because I wanted to do
Yeah.
basketball and then also want to do running, but they're like, "You only could do one," and like you can't do
Mm-mm.
that. So I was like, yeah, I'm still gonna do it regardless of what they say.
Right.
So I did it. So it's interesting how like I mean I bring that up just because it's like I guess mentally I was so prepared just after doing two of them that yeah that mentality was just of like proving them wrong, wanting to prove them wrong, and also like I've done it twice before. Some reason I was just able to do it with no training. So it shows like how powerful like your mind can be. Um, but it also brings me to a point of like, I mean, I think you have to have your energetic centers open. So like I think yoga or stretching can help you. Like I think if you're flexible as a person, like your joints are also healthy and everything like that. I think that going a long distance like a marathon can be easier without training. Like you don't have to do that much training for it, and that's just a theory of mine. But I've obviously done it. But I think if you're healthy, if your body's healthy, things are stretched out, you're not as tense, you won't be feeling that pain during the you know during the marathon. It's just all mental from there. But what are your thoughts on like stretching, flexibility, taking care of your body, maintenance, and things like that?
Mm. It's powerful you say that, and I think there may be limits to it, right? I think there may be so a couple of things. One is I was listening to a podcast recently that was talking about belief, and it talked about belief as something that comes from actually taking action. Belief comes from taking action. And so if you ask me then, can you run a marathon? I was like, I actually didn't believe that I could because I never done one before. Now that I've done one, I have the belief that I can do another one. So you've done a few now, and that belief lies within you that you can go run a marathon. You can go probably run an ultra marathon because your body has been conditioned already. You have that belief, you've already done it. And a lot of people lack that belief. So that's where the limiting belief comes in, is when they lack that belief, it usually comes from not taking action. So taking action goes a long way. Secondly, conditioning doesn't always come from just hitting the pavement every single day and running and running. Like you were playing basketball, you were getting your conditioning from that. You're probably getting strength training and all that from basketball because it allows you to not only train for speed, for endurance, but also for agility, changing directions. And people who don't train for agility, you hear them like, oh, I hurt my ankle, or I hurt my knees, or I hurt something. That's the ability to change directions. And in this life, we need that ability to change directions, anyways, in all the aspects of our lives. Life throws us so many different things, curveballs, you name them, and your ability to change, switch directions, switch mindset is really important. One of the things that you talk about was breath work, and I wanted to comment on that because when I started running, I hired a running coach, and I've been practicing yoga for a while. So I had already been familiar with the connection between the mind and the body being the breath. However, I was still breathing really, really wrong. And a lot of people's breath is still really, really off because every time you interact with another person, your breath gets impacted. And if you don't know how to go back into your natural breath, then your breath is fully impacted all day long. The tightness in your chest or the tightness in your stomach sometimes will come from not breathing right. In my case, that's where it came from. So I think like the first 4 weeks of training for me when I decided to run a marathon was breath work. It was all about breathing. I'll meet with the coach and we'll sit down for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Sometimes we'll breathe and I'll get tired from it. I'll get tired from breathing the right way, and I learned about different types of breathing. Diaphragmatic breathing, which is, trying to push your diaphragm down and inflate your stomach. I also learned about pranayama breathing. So funny enough, I learned pranayama breathing from yoga, which is the back of the throat breathing, almost like when you sound like Darth Vader. Um, that's a cooling breath. That breath actually cools the mind and it cools the body. I used pranayama breathing when I was running Boston Marathon, and it cooled my body when I was overheating. So breath work is super important. And then you talk about stretching, right? So years ago, I was a personal trainer. I wasn't always of the belief that strength training is all that you need to do. Absolutely not. You need to do more than strength training. And then there were five areas that I always focus on. One of them was strength, obviously, which is how much weight you can lift. The second one was your power, which is how much weight you can lift, but in a short amount of time. That's like your explosive force. If you think about like calisthenics or jump squats and things like that, it builds that power for you. The third one was endurance or elasticity, E. And elasticity actually allows your muscles to elongate and contract very seamlessly. And most people don't think about how their muscles stretch and contract because we live in this world now, which is mostly sedentary. With the work from home, people are not moving anymore. And even before the work from home, people were sitting most of the time. I was sitting most of the time. And I had the tightness in my muscles. When the muscles get shorter and tighter, it's easier to snap. So I made it a conscious effort. If nothing else, get some stretching into your routine because that helps your muscles go back to the natural. Think about it like if you had like a rubber band, right? Rubber band can stretch to its limit and then contract back. But if you put that rubber band outside in the rain and in the sun and you leave it there for a few weeks and you go pick it up and you try to stretch it, it's probably going to snap right away. It tightened up and so it loses its elasticity. So that's that part. And then obviously we have speed, which is velocity, how fast you can go. And then I talked about A, which is agility, how well you can change direction. So those are the five areas which I always train my clients on: strength, power, endurance or elasticity, speed, and then agility. And if you can really conquer those five areas, then you become what I call closer and closer to being physically fit. So yeah, you're 100% right. Yoga helped me with my flexibility, but I did all of those other things as well to help me become a better runner.
Yeah, and also like tying it into what you said earlier, or yeah, earlier about also your emotions. We tend to like store it in our body as well. So if you stretch out, for example, definitely since the emotions can get stored in your body, you stretch out, it can start to loosen yourself up, and you can start to feel a little bit more. I also had I had a chiropractor on, and chiropractor practice is kind of controversial, but
Yeah,
their philosophy is very interesting though. How the spine obviously is what connects us to God, and also it connects us to ourselves as well. And
yeah,
when you have subluxations, which is basically your spine is like out of place, let's say it like that, or the
yeah,
discs are kind of like shifted a little bit, then it blocks the nerves, which obviously um, impairs your ability to actually connect to something higher or to yourself. So, and also
yeah,
muscle tension can also pull your spine out of place, things like that, or tension in general can make your spine, out of place. So when you realign it, you can definitely have a safer place inside of yourself emotionally. Um, so I mean, that's that. But
yeah.
have you noticed that like maybe stretching has helped you become a little bit looser emotionally or mentally, or is it connected
Spiritual.
like that?
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, you talk about the spine, right? Everything from the crown all the way down to your tail. Um, in yoga, or in the spiritual realm, at least, we talk about the chakras of the body, these energy centers of the body. And I never been a big believer in those because, like I mentioned in the beginning, I had a Christian base, which was all about going to church. We never talk about chakras and whether they're blocked or unblocked, But when I learned about Eastern medicine, Buddhism, Ayurveda, and all of the different practices, and I started tapping into the energy centers of the body and how they could get blocked. For me, where I stored a lot, and I'll be very transparent with you, for me, where I stored a lot of my pain was in my hips and in my lower back. And it made sense why I felt the pain there. The energy was just trapped there. And what I did finally is I worked with the energy healer to actually go through and release a lot of um, the blockages that existed in my lower spine. Exactly, because it was L4, L5, and the lower spine. A lot of people, I think I looked at the statistic, and it says 80% of America, actually 80% of the world of adults, actually deal with a chronic back condition at least once in their lifetime. So this is pretty common. And most of the time, what happens, we go and see our doctor, right? And they put us on some kind of a medication, pain, muscle relaxer, or whatever. How well do those people actually heal? Well, some of them actually do heal, but when you've been dealing with a chronic condition like I had been dealing with for so long, the tightness and the spine and all of those things, like for me, the tightness and so let me just backtrack for a second. The emotional state got my muscles to tighten up. Think about it, when something bad happens, like you get into a car accident, you freeze up, you tighten up. And if that tightness doesn't go away, if you don't have a way to release that, it stays in your body. So that tightness stayed in my lower back for so long. I say this to say, when I worked with the chiropractor last year, he came to me, he was like, "Hey man, can I talk to you for a second?" I was like, "Sure." He's like, "Yeah, ever since I've been seeing you, I haven't done anything but adjust, realign your spine and release your muscles. And you're running better, you're more upright, you actually seem happier, the pain is gone. I don't believe that you had degenerative disc disease." Now, I say this really cautiously, one, because I'm not a medical professional, but I don't believe that I had degenerative disc disease at all. I believe that I had emotions that were trapped in my body that showed up as tightness that pulled on my spine that caused me pain. And by stretching out my spine, it allowed me to release, stretching out my muscles, it allowed me to release my spine. And by releasing my spine, it allowed me to be more aligned, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I run better now. I breathe better now. Things which used to be tighter for me, like my breath was always tight because I was always kind of feeling this tightness in my lower arms. Well, that tightness was just emotions that were trapped in my body. And now that I'm able to release them, I'm able to breathe better. I'm able to feel better. I'm able to sleep better. And I can feel my health getting better as well. So, yeah, I'm a strong believer that all of these things are connected. And when one thing goes off, it's almost like the domino effect starts. Like your emotion go off, and then it will impact your physical, and then it impacts your mental, and then it just keeps going from there. And the reversal process is almost like the same. Like once you fix the emotions, then it fixes the physical, then it fixes the other thing, and then you just get back to holistic health. So yeah, everything is
Yeah.
connected.
Yeah, there's two things I want to bring up, but I think this,
So,
this is a dream I don't think I've shared with anybody. But I've been getting so when I started going to a chiropractor, like I just went just to go. I didn't really think chiropractor had something behind the chiropractic practice had something behind it, and then for some reason started getting dreams on it, and one of them was actually pretty intense. Where like so I was laying on the table to get adjusted, and then like it was just this energy just entered into the room, and
mm,
then it was like pretty intense, and then I remember just lying down, and then as soon as the chiropractor adjusted me, then like I remember just getting super aligned, and then I just threw up all the garbage, and like I literally just threw up. And then as soon as I like, threw up and I was like releasing a bunch of stuff, then like that energy started to get more intense. And then like my eyes were closed, and then I saw like a bright white light up in the sky. And then I was just staring at it, and it was like I started concentrating on it, and then it was like more of it started to whatever was coming from that white light. I guess that was the energy that entered into the room. Was like
yeah.
it was starting to just work on me and heal me and things like that. So I mean, I get dreams like that about chiropractor. I'm like, It's interesting how your spine's very, as soon as you align, it's like, for me, this is just a thought I've had. I think when people also mention the rod or staff in a Bible, I think
Yeah.
it's probably dealing with your spine or something, like having a rod or something like that. But um,
Can you go
as
into
for
that a
that,
little bit, the rod and the staff and the spine and how those are connected?
oh yeah, I mean, if you think of like Moses, for example, right? He had a rod in his hand when he, split the sea.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, my thoughts on it is like, I've heard, okay, I mean, out of experience too. Okay, I don't really say, okay, I don't really say this, so that's why. But
Yeah.
so I've heard that in the middle of your head, the center of your head, you have the Holy of Holies, or like the what do you call it? So in the Holy of Holies, there's two angels, and then in the center point, there's like a bright, that's where the presence of God is. So
Yeah.
in the center of your head, you have that, and so obviously your body's a temple. So when everything's aligned, sometimes you get, at least for me, I get surges of energy that go up, and it goes into the center of my head, and then I'm able to be in that spot and see, you know, what's in the Holy of Holies, or what's in the temple of God, if you will. And so as soon as I don't know why it happens or when it happens. I've heard people say it's like just the cerebral spinal fluid moving up, and I've heard it's every 30 days. But for
Yes.
me, it's kind of not 30 days. Sometimes it's just random. It's not consistently 30
Yeah.
days. But so it'll happen like that, and then so when you talk about the rod, it's like this is a temple, and if you think of a rod too, in the center or the top of the rod, it holds like a crystal or power. So in the same way,
Mhm.
we're kind of like a rod where we hold that crystal or power, there. So you can charge yourself up, charge that crystal on the side of, the middle of your head. And then
Yeah.
obviously with the rod, then you can have authority to do things, or to, I guess, have your will done, or have God's will done, or whatever will.
Yeah.
So it's a mechanism I'm still learning about. I'm pretty new to, but it's things that I've experienced and I find very fascinating.
I'd love to learn more about that. And I've heard something about this before, how what is I don't know what fluid it is that's in your brain that once a month it has to go all the way down to the bottom of your spine and then it travels back up,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
this is that path of enlightenment for you. And when those blockages exist, then it doesn't have that free path all the way down to the
yeah,
base and back, so it gets blocked, it gets stuck. So as long as there's a misalignment or there's a blockage in one of your chakras, you don't really get to achieve that true state of enlightenment. And it takes a lot of work for some people to get there, but to some people, it's just about being with themselves and going deeper within their practice. And unfortunately, more of society today is going outward to go find that healing. But really, when you go in, when you trust yourself, when you dig deep, you can find that healing. It's so profound how you described the light and the reaction to your body, how you threw up, right? That's It's such a
yeah,
visceral reaction, but I strongly believe that there were things that were probably blocked or trapped in your body, and you needed to have that release in order to become enlightened, to become the person who you are. And enlightened has light in it, so it's becoming the light, or embracing the light. So I'm so happy
yeah,
that you found that. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if you have seen, like, in charismatic circles, for example, or what you would call exorcism, right? Like,
Yeah.
someone goes through an exorcism, sometimes they throw up or they show signs of that, where they're just releasing stuff just
Yeah.
emotionally. So this is
Yeah.
just this process happening too. Like, it's just the lights coming in, and then the body's getting cleaned and things like that. And then, but I think there's a disconnect, and this is the second thing I was gonna bring up too, is I mean, there's a disconnect between science and then spiritual stuff, to where I think in science you study matter so much, whereas spirituality is more a study of the eternal. So matter is something
Mm.
that's temporary and it's dying, and then people study that and they look very closely into that, but it's just death. Whereas spirituality is seeking something eternal. So I think the bridge in between is something that, I mean, I don't know if a lot of people have looked into merging the two, or the connection between the two nowadays, but I mean, have you found people that have tried to connect the two, matter and science or spirituality, or what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on just stuff in general?
Um, I think that the two are not separate from each other. I think that we humans, we separate them because we use language that's divisive, not connecting. We use language that separates the world, not bringing it together. This is just who we are. We have language that is inadequate to describe what it is that is our existence. So we call it science, we call it spirituality, but to me, it's all the same. Think about it. Um, in the spiritual realm, you talked about the light. You talk about becoming enlightened. What is light? Light is energy. What is energy? Energy is matter, at least according to Einstein. Energy is matter, and matter is energy. What is matter is what we've been studying all along. We talk about science, we talk about physics and chemistry and biology. Okay, so those two things are connected, right? Science and spirituality. I know when you talk about spirituality, we get so many different names. So we call it Christianity, we call it Buddha, we call it Islam, we call it so many different things. For me, growing up, the first 10 years of my life was spent deepening my spiritual practice, but following religion. The deity of Christianity required me to do things, go to church every Sunday, pray, read the Bible, do all of those things. That was great. However, I was also growing up in a family that was more science based. My dad was in the medical profession, and my mom was a nurse. So I spent a lot of time learning about the physical body, but also learning about the celestial bodies, the universe, how we are built, the atoms, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, all make up the universe. But at some point in my science experience, I got to learn that matter is energy, they're interchangeable. And energy is what we spend a lot of our time trying to control. You know, love is a vibration, gratitude is a vibration, fear is a vibration. It's a lower vibration than love and gratitude. But those are all energies. Think about it. Why is it that when you come across certain people, you interact with them, you feel energized, you feel happy, but then other people, you feel like, oh man, I got so drained. I feel like the life got sucked out of me. You know, you have certain, you're in certain spaces. Like usually when I go around certain spaces, like um, if I'm walking around, or I'm driving by a church or like a cemetery, I feel this like huge energy emanating from there. And it's not always the case. So I think that we use language, and this is just my own personal opinion, by the way. I think that we use language which doesn't really connect those things together. We talk about the East and we talk about the West. You know, Western medicine is really, really good. And by the way, I hope none of what I said is about bashing Western medicine at all. Western medicine is really good at certain things, detecting things and solving things that are really acute. However, when it comes to things that are more lifestyle, more chronic based, it's not as adequate. And this is where the Eastern practices come in. Mindfulness and meditation will heal your body. Movement will heal your anxiety faster than any pill will ever do. So I think that intricately science and religion are connected, science and spirituality are connected. We just chose to disconnect them or treat them really, really differently. And I strongly believe that if you found a way to actually tap the best of both worlds, you can live a more holistic life. Um, so that's just my 2 cents there.
Yeah, I think you worded it. That's kind of what I was trying to express right there. But yeah, we just lack the language to really express what, or yeah, we lack the language so that there's an
Yeah,
or connection between the two. So yeah, the
yeah,
language is definitely a separator between science. Can be a separation between science and spirituality. So
totally,
yeah,
absolutely. It's something that I strongly believe in, but you know, I know that as us humans, we use our ego and we're like, okay, show me the proof. Well, show me the proof that an atom exists. Like no one's actually seen it. And show me the proof that the universe is as expansive as it is. No one's actually seen it. But people actually show me the proof that God exists and no one's actually seen it. Right. So I believe that those things that are really subtle in life, we don't really have proof, but we seek proof because we're human. We have ego. But if you just have belief, and this is where faith and hope and belief comes in, like if you just have belief that these things do exist and that they're universal laws that govern the planet and the universe, then you can actually flow much seamlessly through this life and live a life of bliss more than a life of suffering. So, um,
Yeah. Well, like
yeah,
there's that saying or scripture quote or whatever. It's like faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. But
yeah,
if you think about it though, it's like hearing is like tuning yourself. Hearing is like, you know, or faith is also like seeing it as well. Like hearing is like when you hear something, you tune yourself into that, vibration or into that whatever it may be. So
yeah,
we have faith because we hear and we know things are coming towards us. That's why we believe because we know that that thing that's in the present or in the future. Sorry, the things that's in the future is coming towards us. So that's why we have faith because we know it's slowly coming. And obviously, the word of God being the thing that we're bringing towards us that comes from God. So that's where
and
true faith comes from.
100%. And uh, depending who you speak to, there's so many different schools of thought on it. Sometimes there's a school of thought like what you were talking about, like the thought around attraction, right? Like as long as you have faith, you keep going closer and closer towards the things that you desire, the things that you want. What I'm also learning is that there's also the law of assumption, like just assuming that you're already there, that all the things that you need in order to heal in this world already exist within you. You already have all the knowledge, you already have all the power in order to do those things. And if you have that assumption, then it actually allows you to be free of desire. It actually allows you to go deep and say, okay, what do I want to be right now? And then you be that. And I say this to say I've met so many people who are like, actually, I had all these ailments in my body, and at some point, I switched my mindset to I believe that I cannot be healed. To I believe that I am healing. Like I don't need healing. I am healing. And you started off by talking about affirmations. Yeah, those affirmations do work. When you start believing that you are healing, that you are enough, that you are love, then you just emanate that. You don't have to seek it anymore. You just start sharing it, and you just like accepting it in ways that you never have before. And I'm still so new to this stuff that it's like I'm still growing into it, and I'm still learning a lot about it, and I'm very open to that because this is where the work needs to happen. This is what Taylor circles talk about: staring into the sun versus staring into the mirror.
Yeah.
It's just do the work, get the knowledge that you need, deepen deepen your knowledge about yourself. I believe self knowledge is the greatest. We spend so much time learning about the universe, but who's it, Rumi, that said there is as broad of a universe inside of you as there is out there. So I've been committed to learning as much about myself as possible because by knowing me and by solving the issues that exist in my body, I can know you, I can know all different people, and I can help them solve some of those issues that they're dealing with as well. There's no shortage of diabetes, obesity, heart condition, breathing issues in America. Um, Depending on where you sit, like you might start taking a pill for your diabetes and it leads you to the second pill and the third pill. But if you have that belief that it's not the things that are outside, actually, the things that are outside that you put in your body that actually got you to that state. So if you just eliminated those things, your body will naturally heal. But we have been programmed with this belief that you need a pill in order to heal your body. You need something that's outside of your body to come in and heal your body, but that's not true. Um, and sometimes, yeah, probably in like acute situations, but long term, I don't think that that's the way. And in my case, it was not the way because when I got off all of the medication, it actually released my healing pathways to start recovering and start getting back on my feet, start running, started actually enjoying life in very, very different ways. So yeah, I think the path to knowledge is know yourself, and then by knowing yourself, you can know as much of the universe as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I think
Yeah.
that's actually a good place to end it right there. But
This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful.
yeah,
Thank you. I just want to say thank you for this time and thank you for your story. I got to learn different pieces of your. I actually realized that we both actually exchanged this passion for running. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't actually know that before I got on. I knew that we are going to talk about spirituality and wellness and growth, but I didn't actually know that you're not. It's so funny. Like we just connect on so many different levels, and once we give ourselves that space to learn about each other, we realize that we're more the same than different. So I'm very grateful to you, Ezekiel, for giving me this opportunity to share my story with you, with your viewers, and with the world, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to come across this. And I'm hoping that this impacts at least one person who finds this and listens to this. So thank you very much. And I know it's really early for you in LA, so I'm sending you plenty of love and light as you start your day and as you go through your weekend.
Yeah, I'm grateful for you coming on too. You shared a lot of good stuff, and the gratitude, just your talk on gratitude, is super powerful. So, um, and real quick though, where can people find you?
Yeah, people can find me mostly online, social media. I'm based out of Massachusetts, Boston, so people who are in person can find me in Boston. But online, my website is andersondinga.com, and I run a company called Live Unity, LIVUNITY.com. I'll send the link to you so you can add it to the show notes. But find me on social media. I'm Anderson Dinga in most places, or Prananyama on Instagram.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll link that all
Awesome.
below. And once again, I'm grateful for you coming on.
I appreciate you so much. Have a lovely day, man.